Hey guys, this is Neil with Catalyst Machine Works and MoneyShot Cinema, and I'm going to give you a video user manual for the MoneyShot Mini, our new cinema drone. Okay, so let's start with the most important thing. That is the battery tray setup and the batteries in general. Okay, the way this thing works is you've got two 4-cell batteries that are wired in series to produce 8S power. Now, with regards to the batteries themselves, we suggest that you use the battery type that we have mounted on here. These are 8,000 mAh ADC packs 4S that you can get at Tattoo, California, also known as Genzace. Okay, the reason that we like these batteries is because they properly counterbalance rather the Komodo camera. Right? Most people in this are going to be using the Komodo camera, so this is really what you need to go with. Now, if you're using a smaller camera, let's say it's a GH5, something like that, maybe you don't need batteries this big. You can use a 6,000 mAh, 5500, something like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with how this works. So you can see you've got a battery top and bottom, okay, and they are connected with these AS150 connectors. Right, to release the battery tray, what you've got is this little quick release mechanism here. There's a push button here. Right, so you depress this, then you can slide the battery tray out. Obviously, before you do that, you need to disconnect the AS150s, and you can sort of spin them and get them to disconnect. Let me get the one on the bottom here. All right. Okay, now, if you can see this here, but what I'm going to do is just depress this, wiggle it, and pull it right off, like that. We'll do the same on the bottom. Now, you don't have to flip it over like that. You can get, eventually you get good enough where you can just push it and pull it out with the craft being upright like this. Okay, so let's look at these battery trays in detail. Okay, here we go. So you can see that these things are mounted with Velcro. Now, the intention of this system is to not have to continually be taking the Velcro on and off to put new batteries on. The intention is to purchase extra quick release trays so that these guys are set up and ready to go, just like this. Okay, you charge them like this, and they also come as a set. You need to wire them up to where they come as a set like this, and you never separate them. The reason for that, as you can see, they're wired up differently. Okay, so this one here that goes on the top of the machine has got a long red wire, and then a short black, and then the one that goes on the bottom has got a long black and a short red. Okay, so obviously putting them back on the system is the reverse of what you did before. So go ahead and depress the button, slide it in, and there you go. And then you can plug this in, get your AS150 plugged in. You're leaving these in the back disconnected, and I'll show you why in a minute. Then we'll go ahead and put this one in. Okay, let's flip them over and do it. There we go. And I will plug it in. All right. Now, to power the system up, it's really easy. And I'm not actually going to do it so we don't power it up, but hook these up, and then you've got power through the system. Okay? Now, there's another thing you need to pay attention to, and I am going to, I'll just show it to you like this. The balance plug. So the balance plug is going to be flopping around. You need to figure out a way to get this out of the props. So right now, the solution that we have is just a simple zip tie through this back slot. Okay, you want to put it through this back slot and then around the side, and that gets it out of the way. There's no way that this thing is going to get up into the props. All right, the next thing I'm going to discuss is the dedicated battery for the FPV system. This is really important. All right, you have to do everything that I'm going to talk about exactly like this. All right, so when you install the battery, you're going to put it in here in a certain way. It comes with this adapter, okay? So this is an XT60 to this little red adapter. Okay, install this such that you are wrapping the plug underneath the Velcro strap. Go ahead and strap it in here. Okay, and strap it down nice and tight. The reason that I do this is because this has got some weight to it. We don't want this flapping around and these two connections to come loose in flight. Then you've lost video and you're going to have a bad day. Okay, so pretty simple. Once you've got it connected here, that's how you power your FPV system. Now, in general, with an 850 milliamp hour 4S, you can get maybe 6-7 flights out of it. We suggest after every single flight, put a battery capacity checker on here and check the capacity of this battery every single flight. Just make a habit of that. That's just a bit of insurance so you can make sure everything's good with the battery. Batteries from time to time can go bad, so you need to make sure that you've got a good battery and it's got a good charge on it. All right, I'm going to discuss the camera mount. This camera mount is very easy to use. Okay, to change the angle, you've got screws here on either side. Right, so obviously you loosen these up and then you can change the angle. Let's say we want to go all the way up to 30 and then just tighten these things up. Now, you don't need to really just over tighten these things and torque them down significantly. There's some special washers in here that are designed for retention, and they're going to hold those screws nice and tight so they don't back out in flight. All right. Okay, to mount the camera. So let's go ahead and get a camera. We've got a Komodo here, and this is pretty obvious, but I'm going to go into the 1/4-20 spot here with a single screw and tighten it up. Okay, so this is one way to mount this camera. There's actually another way that you can mount it depending on how you want to do it. So there we go. Now, let me take the camera off and I will show you the other option to get the camera mounted on here. Okay, if you zoom in to this here, there's actually a little adapter that is set into here. There's 4 screws. When you take those screws out, it changes this mount from a 1/4-20 slot to a 3/8 slot. Okay, so we'll go ahead and do that now. There we go. Okay, so now that I've got this adapter removed, you can see that we've got a bigger slot. What this is going to allow you to do is you can use 2 screws. Okay, so you can use a 3/8-16 screw. You can also use the 1/4-20, and then you just use a bigger washer on the 1/4-20. Okay, and you can get a nice firm mount with 2 screws and get it located properly. All right, there's one other thing about this mount and the angle of adjustment I want to talk about. You can see that we were able to set this thing from 0 degrees all the way up to 30. Okay, you can see the little marks here. You can match up this little pin to get so you know you're at the right angle. Now, I'm going to be designing pretty quickly here, probably this next week, an option for this mount that will let you get greater angles of inclination. And it's going to be very easy to make that happen. You're just going to be able to change out this plate and this plate by taking these screws out and then removing this part and putting it on the new plates. And you'll be able to get all the way up to about 45 degrees of inclination. Right, so we've got the camera mounted back on here. And I want to talk about these vibration dampeners here. These. Okay, we've got all of them mounted in, so there's 10 in total. Now, we've found through our testing that the Komodo likes to have all of these mounted in. All right, if you use a different camera, you may need to tinker with this a bit depending on what kind of footage you're getting. You can adjust these by taking some of these out, right? So maybe you can take a couple of these out, maybe you can take 4. You just have to sort of play with it on your own until you get the footage using lighter cameras the way you like it. All right, and to remove these, there's no way to remove a single one all by itself. You have to pull all of them out, and then you can take the ones you want out and then put them all back in. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the power module for the camera. It's located under the craft. All right, I've removed the FPV battery. Let me get a handle on this thing. Okay, here is the power module. Okay, you can see this button right here. Now, from the factory, you do not need to mess with this power module. You don't need to push the button. We've already set it for 12 volt, which is what the Komodo uses and most other cameras use as well. All right. Now, if for some reason you did want to change the voltage, you have options of 8 volts, you can go to 6 volts or 5 volts. The way to change it is to double press that button. Okay. The lights are going to move to the selection of voltage that you want. And then to set it, let's say I want it at 5 volts, make the 5 volt light up and then long press, and that is going to set that for you. Okay, so the power for the camera comes up to this little XT60. And so what we do is we get a connector. These can be found all over the place. We can make one of these for you if you like. We like to use the right angle connector. Okay, for the Komodo, it usually comes with a D-tap. We unsolder that, make it pretty short like you see here, and then put an XT60 on there. So pretty self-explanatory. Put it in like this. And there you go. The reason we make it short, there's no chance of it getting in the props. And that's it. That's how you power the camera. All right, let's talk about prop direction. Obviously, this is very important, so pay attention to this. This is a reverse prop machine, which if you guys are into FPV, which I hope you are if you're buying one of these, this is really common. Okay, so the top of the bird, the top motors, is reverse props. So the front are going to spin in this direction, so they're spinning away from the camera. The back are spinning towards the battery in this direction. And then the bottom is opposite. Okay, so in the back are spinning this direction, so away from the battery. Okay, and the bottom and the front are spinning towards the camera, so they're spinning in this direction. All right, let's discuss pre-flight checks. It's super important, especially with a machine like this, of this caliber, with a expensive cinema camera, to do these pre-flight checks every time and don't get complacent. Okay, so first thing you want to do is go through and make sure that all the wiring looks good. Nothing is nicked, nothing's cut. It's a good idea to just have a once-over on the various fasteners. Make sure nothing is backed out, nothing looks irregular. Okay, check your props. Make sure that the prop direction is correct. Make sure the torque on these nuts is correct. All right, obviously your batteries. Do a double check, make sure that they're fully charged. On the underside of this guy, make sure that this is oriented just like that. Okay, check the capacity of this battery. Make sure it's fully charged. Another thing that some people may not think about is to verify that these antennae are not loose. Okay, it's possible when you're moving this thing around at a shoot and whatnot and in travel that these can become loose. So just make sure that they're torqued on there properly. Everything looks good. All right, so when you receive your MoneyShot, you're going to need to bind your radio to it, and you're going to need to access the flight controller. So the receiver is located right in here. Okay, so you can get to that receiver pretty easily just through this spot here, unless of course you've chosen to not use the Diversity CROSSFIRE and you're just going with the native receiver that's inside of the air unit. Okay, but now, so you're going to need to access the flight controller, and to do that, you remove this top plate. There's 4 screws to do that. Okay. There you go. So that reveals the flight controller there. There's your USB. Now, what we have found is it really helps if you can get a USB connector that has got a right angle, right? So you can easily get into here. Now, if you have any questions about the flight controller or the software setup of the flight controller, feel free to email us at support@catalystmachineworks.com or info@catalystmachineworks.com. We also have some very detailed videos on portions of the software that can help you along. Now, if you get in here and go messing around with the software, it's going to void your warranty. Okay, the only thing you can do with changing the software is to change your rates or your modes, and that's it. Okay, and that pretty much sums it up.
All right, so guys, now we're going to go over the batteries and the charge adapters and just kind of some safety information when plugging them up into a charger. First, I'll go over the batteries here. For the connectors, we're using AS150s. For your battery with the long negative lead, it's going to be a male on there. With the short red, it's also a male plug. On the opposite battery, it's going to be on the long red plug, it's going to be a male plug, but on the short black, it's going to be a female adapter there. And we do this just to make it real easy to plug it up and kind of keep you from being able to plug it up the wrong way. So I'll go into charging. So we're going to have two different charge adapters, one for one battery, the other for the other. On these, and I'll go ahead and plug one up for you, but on these you always want to do positive last. Okay, that's where your anti-spark connector is, and that just keeps that large surge of power from just creating that loud pop. And so this one obviously has the different connectors. I'll go ahead and connect that one up. Negative first, positive last, and then there's that. Now, when you're hooking these up to your charger, obviously it's going to take two charge ports for these. Be very careful on what you're doing. Something that can happen real easily is crossing your balance leads, so they're hitting the wrong battery. If that happens, you are going to overcharge one of your batteries and create a possible bad time. So just be very conscious of what you're doing. Don't get complacent on that. And that's that. It's super simple. Just charge like any other battery once you have these adapters on there and you're good to go.
And one thing that I want to mention as well is that the system is going to come with both charge adapters, right? So a set of charge adapters. If you'd like us to make you up some extra charge adapters, we can do that. A lot of people like to have extras because you can obviously charge faster.